Ladies and gentlemen, if you are interested in becoming a writer, do make your way over to the Creative Cove now. We have author Julian Miles with us. Julian Miles, oh, look at that, I'm good, aren't I? I've just got his last name down, Julian Miles. His stand is really, really close to the Creative Cove, actually. Just a couple of stands over. He has Sheikh Solomon on it, apparently, so you can't miss it. John has now rejoined us on the stage. No, he hasn't. He hasn't turned his microphone on.
Hello.
It's going really well. This is what happens when you hire monkeys, quite frankly. But Julian, thank you very, very much for taking time out to come and join us.
It's my pleasure.
So you've been writing for some time now. For those that maybe haven't discovered your books, what sort of things can we expect?
Science fiction, fantasy, horror, with a slightly more realistic view. I didn't like the rescuing princess in the tower type stuff. Doesn't really work for me. Reality tends to intrude. Best intentions going awry and this sort of thing.
And also time frame, is it set now, in our time, in our world?
I write...
it varies.
The fantasy stuff, it's your famous high fantasy, elves and all the other stuff, with a pagan aspect. Some of the pagan stuff is set modern times, about the spirits that share the world with us now. And then I write cyberpunk, science fiction, science fantasy, which can be futures from a couple of years to several centuries in the future. My writing is...
Knows no limits, is unbound.
I always say I've got like a story-making engine in my head that occasionally needs to borrow my fingers. You know, I can do 80,000 words in 6 weeks and then nothing for a couple of months.
Your English teachers must have loved you when it came to essay time then.
By the time I left school, the English language had gone through the cupboard, English literature, and out into just selecting books from the library. But apart from that, I was appalling.
And you recently brought a book out. Tell us about your latest one.
My latest book is called Scathe. It's my largest novel to date, actually. It's an investigative piece of modern Cthulhu mythos horror about a detective inspector who's seconded to help with an investigation going on in London when the lead officer is badly injured by something that's meant to be monstrous. He's told to get involved in the investigation, lead it, and follow it to wherever it goes to fix it. And as he puts a team together and starts investigating it, and as he finds more and more the facts, it gets stranger and more threatening. And it's a case of balancing the collective sanity of his team against the threat that's coming. And in the end, it comes down to it could kill them, but if they don't do anything about it, it's going to go on and kill thousands more.
And where can we find your work?
All of my work is available internationally from Amazon in paperbacks, ebooks for every single device, your Kindle, all your iDevices. The stuff's available from Barnes & Noble's, iBooks, and I also do my paperbacks in 2 fonts. I do standard font. I also do open dyslexic font, the open source font created by Abby Gonzalez to help people with reading problems on the dyslexic spectrum. It can help most of them. It can assist. I've had people in tears.
So is that a standardized international font?
There are several open fonts for dyslexic out there. I chose Open Dyslexic 8 years ago because at the time it was the only one that was completely free to use at any time for any purpose, and it still is. You can use it commercially, and it really does.
So there's no risk that someone won't have access to that because they haven't paid for the font. Anyone can download that font and use it.
Yeah, you can look on my website. I have links to opendyslexic.org. I also have a couple of short stories in Open Dyslexic, so you can see if it works for you.
Oh, right.
And then you can literally go to opendyslexic.org, download the font and use it yourself, have it added by your IT admin for your workplace so you can read your documents easier. It's excellent. I've had dyslexics in tears reading the paperbacks I've done in Open Dyslexic because the words don't move anymore. Open Dyslexic it's not going to get everybody, but it can help a lot of the broad spectrum. I'm delighted to work with it. And all it is, publishing via Amazon, there's no time of my own. It's nothing but my time. There's no cost to me. So I do all my editions in 2 different editions worldwide.
And as you probably know, we are very inclusive here at Wyntercon. Whatever world you're from, you're welcome in ours. So how important was it for you to be able to reach out and make literature more accessible for those who have dyslexia?
Essential. How you read shouldn't affect what you can read. And if it's only my time that's the cost, then there is no excuse for not presenting my work in those editions.
I imagine life as a self-publisher can be quite tough. So what advice would you give to budding authors out there?
It's interesting. There's 2 sides to that. If you've got to think you've got a story in you, don't put it off. For all the fancy ideas I come up with and the sarcasm, the bottom line comes down to 2 words: just write. Do it. Don't think when I get some time, when I have a couple of days off, I'll do it when I go on holiday. Start writing now. With all the fantastic devices you seamlessly integrate together, start writing the story now. Even if you're not writing the story, start writing the bits, those bits of inspiration you have, put them together, get them down. Because in a lot of cases, you can do the words anytime, but that piece of creative inspiration that you capture, if you don't get it the moment it arrives, it may not ever come again. And that is absolutely essential. I've got some of my notes. A few weeks ago, I completed a story that I wrote the first section of in 1987. No piece of writing you come up with is wrong. It might not be right for the story you're working on. It may be just early for one you haven't started yet.
Fantastic. So if anyone would like any tips or advice or find out more about your work, you're here all weekend?
I'm here all weekend. You can check on my website. There's links there. And I have a load of my open dyslexic books with me this weekend, so you can look them over and you can actually compare the standard editions versus the open dyslexic editions. I also make sure they're absolutely the same price. There's no price premium for getting a different version of the book. That's not on.
And what have you made of Wyntercon so far?
I'm having a lot of fun, as usual. I'm back for my 6th year, so I must like it.
Thank you very much. So if you're looking for information, do pop along. Not far away. Look for the big man with the blue on his head. The blue dude, yes. Come find him. Thank you very much for taking time out.
Thanks for joining us.